guys, it's been a while since I made a video on this topic, but I think it's about time to inform you about the tons of developments that have occurred since I did that last video. The most major one being that I finally started HRT, and I couldn't be happier. It took a lot of work, it took a lot of time and a lot of efforts from me, but I have finally started HRT. And I honestly kind of can't believe it. Sometimes there are some moments where I worry that this is just a dream and I'm just gonna wake up and I'm still gonna be stuck not having HRT, because there have been some dreams where they felt very real and they've turned out to be dreams where I was given HRT and it wasn't the case because it was a dream. But it's not a dream. It's finally a reality for me and I can't be happier, man. And in this video, I will be sharing all of my experience getting to the point of starting HRT, because it was quite the journey. And I am sorry that I've kept it kind of hidden from you, because I haven't really mentioned it in my community posts or in videos or made videos talking about this. But there is a reason for that. Without reason being that earlier this year, one of my cousins managed to find my YouTube channel. And they've obviously seen the way I present in my videos, how I dress and everything. And personally, I don't necessarily care what they think about this. It's not like they don't know that fact, because the cousin that found it knows that at one point in my life I've wanted to be a girl. But there's already been some awkward moments in regards to this that I don't really want to get into. And I've tried to avoid basically meeting him or talking to him or anybody from his brothers, brother or sister, or anybody from that side of the family. I've tried to avoid. And at this point, since I've actually finally achieved this, I don't really care what they think. I don't really care what they could potentially reveal to my dad or somebody else in my family. I don't care. I've gotten what I wanted. I'm starting to build my life forward, and hopefully I'll manage to move out next year, hopefully with your guys' help. So screw them, basically. I don't care. And I just am really happy that I finally achieved this, so I want to share with you all the things that I've went through. If you want to see a detailed covering of those experiences, I did record quite a lot of vlogs throughout the summer with my opinions and feelings and thoughts of the events as they were happening. I did a bunch of vlogs, and they are at the lowest tier on Patreon and Coffee account, but I will not be releasing them on YouTube. They'll still be exclusive to there, because that's something that I've started doing recently, doing exclusive vlogs. And most of them are these transition updates, basically. And especially the most recent one, I feel like it's definitely the one that is most worth the watch, because it's a 1 hour long vlog of what a challenge it was getting the HRT, getting to the place where the guy prescribed me HRT. Because that turned out to be such a pain in the ass. It's kind of insane, but I'll get to sharing what happened in a little bit. First, we need to recap how this year started for me, because it's a big deal. Because the reason about the events that preceded the previous video that I made on this topic also is the reason why I was able to do all these things this year. Because if you don't remember what happened earlier this year and at the end of last year, around the time of New Year's, I was really feeling sad and depressed that another year had passed with me not really making any fundamental or really any steps forward and any changes and improvements or progress in my transition. I was still stuck at the same spot in the closet as I was 4 years ago when I started my YouTube channel, which was the way I was hoping that I would manage to get myself out of the closet. Didn't really work out, but another year passed, and I just wanted to do something. I just wanted to finally make a step forward because nobody was gonna make that step for me. Nobody knew the kind of hole that I was in, so there was nobody to pull me out of it. I had to pull myself out of it. And that's what I did. That's why I came out to my mom, and with slight help from her, I managed to go to a sex therapist at the beginning of the year. I'm saying a sex therapist because that's kind of literally a description of what he is. He's like the kind of therapist or psychologist that you go to whenever you have like relationship problems or problems in during sex, which might be psychological or maybe somewhat physical. Basically it's the kind of psychologist or psychiatrist or therapist that you go to whenever you can't get it up. And I went to him because I know that he works with LGBT people, and he was the only one that I knew that I could go to. It didn't really cross my mind for some reason that I could potentially contact LGBTQ charity that could either guide me or in general might have some people on staff who could help me out and get me HRT. So I went to this therapist, and if you want to get all the details, check out the previous video, but to put it short, it wasn't a great experience. He was kind of an asshole and a bit of a piece of shit. Ultimately, he was willing to help me out and get me all the stuff that I needed, but I didn't really have an interest to go back to him because of the kind of person that he was. So I kind of went back to my closet, for lack of a better term, And it took me a couple of months, but I finally managed to contact some LGBTQ charity. First, I contacted one charity that is supposedly a more prominent and a bigger one. And they basically kind of somewhat gave me the finger. That's kind of at least what it feels like. I wouldn't say they really did that, but what it feels like, because I kept asking them for help with getting HRT, guiding me through the process of getting HRT, telling me who and where I needed to go to start HRT. And I had a lot of hopes that they would help me out because they are an LGBTQ charity, and they are the prominent one, the big one. But they failed me. The only thing that they were ultimately able to offer me is a membership to a trans Facebook group, basically. And I got that, but I haven't really gotten much out of it. I don't really use Facebook, so big deal that turned out to be, Luckily though, the other LGBTQ charity, which was a tinier one, and which is actually more focused on trans people, but still is a tinier one, managed to actually help me out. And God, they are such a lifesaver. They've genuinely saved my life. I don't know if I would have been able to make it through this year if I didn't make these steps forward. So if it wasn't for them, I don't know if I could have done this. I don't know if I would still be here, all things considered. And I'm genuinely serious here. So big thanks to this amazing LGBTQ charity called Single Step. You can look up their website if you want to donate to them. I definitely suggest you to do that. If you're able to afford it, because they definitely would need that help. They would definitely appreciate that help. But yeah, I'm so grateful to them. They've been so helpful, and for basically no money from my side, which makes sense because they're a charity. But I'm so grateful. And it's not like I haven't spent money on this transition. It's been incredibly expensive for me, all things considered, because I've had to work quite a lot, and I've even had to start a proper job to be able to finance this. So yeah, the things you do to make your life better. Because like for me, starting a job was not only like a scary thing, because how can I possibly start a job and transition at the same time? I guess I'm gonna figure it out as it happens, but that wasn't one reason why I didn't want to start a job. Another is just that I don't fare well when I'm working. Like I get very easily stressed. I find like 9 to 5 kind of work like very tedious and very draining on me, like basically leaving me like a husk and a shell of my former self. And I'm still suffering from that, but to be honest, finally getting the HRT has alleviated it enough to where I'm actually able to still live without killing myself. It basically has removed like a quarter of the water in the cup, so it's not overflowing in a way, if you get that like analogy. Because before that, or to use the analogy of like the straw that broke the camel's back, for me, there was so much weight on the camel that if I also had to work and not get the alleviation of finally starting HRT, that would have broken the back of the camel, aka my back. So yeah, finally starting HRT has been so relieving, but I'm gonna get there. Again, I just once again want to give huge thanks to this LGBTQ charity for saving my life practically, because they have guided me pretty much through every single one of the steps. Get it? Single steps. And they've just made my life so much better. But yeah, so there was quite a few things that I needed to do during the summer, even after I contacted this LGBTQ charity. The first thing that I obviously needed to do was go to their psychologist, one of their psychologists, and basically do a couple of sessions with her to, I guess, kind of confirm the fact that I am trans, that I really want this, that I'm convinced and like sure of what I want, and to just kind of like help me a little bit with my mental health, because she's supposed to be like a therapy support, not really the person that diagnoses you with gender dysphoria. That's a different person. She's just a therapy support person, and honestly, she's been so great. I love her so much. She has helped me figure things out about myself. Multiple times at this point. I've went for like 6 sessions at this point, I think, like 5 or 6. And every time after I leave her place, I feel so much better and so much calmer, and like so much weight has been removed from my shoulders and my head that I can actually breathe and exist without wanting to like put a bullet in my head. She's been amazing. Because like, personally, I feel like I'm pretty good at taking care of my own mental health, in the sense of being able to like figure out what is bothering me, what is making me depressed, why am I sad, why am I angry, why am I bothered. I'm pretty good at figuring out those kind of things myself without needing some other help. I'm at least better than the average person. But even I need sometimes somebody else to tell me what's my issue. Because sometimes you just need that outside influence telling you what your problem is, because it's a more tangible thing than just you telling yourself that in your head, you know? So she has been great help. And I honestly would go to her even if I wasn't like trans, because she has been helping me out with mental health stuff, even outside of being trans, like some more general life stuff. So it's been great, because some things do kind of get interconnected a little bit when it comes to my issues, because like I not only have to deal with like my trans stuff, trans issues right now, I need to deal with going to work. I need to deal with a lot of health issues in people in my family, like in my relatives that all seem to kind of fucking happen at the same time. So it's been a lot on my mind, basically, and she has helped me out with all of that, and I just want to thank her from the bottom of my heart for being so helpful. So yeah, I've had to go on a couple of sessions with her, basically, and I also had to talk to one of, I think, the main people that works for that LGBTQ charity, who basically is like the one that kind of guides you on the medical side of things and everything. And he's the one also that is kind of going to be tracking my HRT usage, you know. He's going to be the one that is going to be checking my blood tests and telling me how much pills I get to take. The annoying thing is that he's not the one who is prescribing them to me, so I have to go to a certain other guy who I'm fucking scared that he's gonna fucking croak because he's like an old guy, and what if he dies? Who is gonna prescribe me HRT then? Which brings me to what was a little bit of an issue at first after I contacted this LGBTQ charity. That being the fact that the guy who prescribes HRT, the endocrinologist, had broken his leg. So he wasn't working for a while. So basically I had to wait for the guy to his leg to heal to be able to go to him, make an appointment, and get the prescription for HRT. And I didn't have an issue with it at the time because there was a lot of other stuff that I needed to do anyway before I got starting the HRT. But I did say to that guy that as long as I started HRT before the end of the year, it was going to be fine. And look where we are. It's November, and I have been on HRT for about half a month already. Can you see it? Can you notice it? Any changes? We'll get to some of those as well. But yeah, so in the meantime, after getting HRT became a more tangible thing instead of just a dream that could have potentially happened in the future, but instead it became something that was going to happen eventually, I realized that there was some things that I needed to do beforehand. The main one being freezing my sperm. And since we're going to be getting onto this topic, I want to say this. If I had a nickel for every time a guy, an old or middle-aged to an old guy, has been touching my penis and balls this year, I would have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's twice more than I thought somebody was going to be touching my penis and balls this year. Or at least one more, because I did not expect at least one of them to do that. Because like I said, I had to go to a fertility clinic to get my sperm frozen so I could keep the possibility of having children in the future if I want so. It's not that I particularly want to have children, it's more so because I felt a lot of pressure from my mom and my dad about that, and I just wanted to keep it as an option in the future and just not sign that off completely, because I just felt really, really bad about basically removing my ability to give them grandchildren, because I know that is something that they really, really want, or at least want a lot. So I felt a lot of pressure about that, so I felt like I had to do that. So I went there, and I did not expect the guy to be checking out my fucking balls and looking through them and using that kind of machine that pregnant women use to see their babies, you know, when they go to the gynecologist or however you pronounce that. Like, he used the same kind of machine to look at my testicles to see whether they're in working order, which was kind of surprising because he asked me a bunch of questions and he basically said, okay, go over there and put your pants down. And I was like, okay. I did not expect that, but okay. And it honestly wasn't that awkward. Ultimately, I just kind of closed my eyes and tried not to think about it. And then by the second time when I went to the endocrinologist, who was the other guy who fucking checked out my penis and balls, at least there it made sense because he was looking at my uh, secondary like sex characteristics. I think it's what they're called. Like he looked at my chest, he looked at my uh, penis and testicles to see if they're fine and everything. And at least I expected it there because he has to make sure that everything is fine as well, that there's no issues there before prescribing me HRT. But still, I'm surprised that I had to do that twice. And it's kind of insane because like I don't think I could have seen myself doing these things and going through these things like a couple of years ago. Which kind of brings me to something else that I want to talk a little bit about. It's a little bit of a sidetrack, so I'm sorry about that, but I just want to bring it up. That being how much I've become better due to my gender dysphoria, because it's like an awful thing that trans people suffer with for the longest time, but it has pushed me so much, made me so much better. It's been such a driving force for me that I honestly kind of like wouldn't be the person that I am right now if it wasn't for the gender dysphoria. Because like back like in 2019 when I fucking graduated school, I was still such a meekly and shy and scared child. Like I didn't really leave my town. I didn't travel with public transport. Like I didn't go anywhere without my mom. Really, I was basically still like a young child for all things considered. But throughout trying to make these steps forward and just general growing up that I've had to do, I've become such a better person that has allowed me to finally get the HRT and go through all of these things that I've needed to. Because like in 2020, I thought that it potentially could help me out to start my transition if I moved out and I used the opportunity of going to study in a university in a different big city as a way to move out and potentially be able to start my transition finally. And that fell through because I dropped out of university after like 2 months due to the COVID stuff, because it didn't really work out for me. But that still gave me a lot of insight about living on my own and just got me a glimpse of what it feels like and how I can be on my own and deal with stuff on my own and take care of myself and like be an independent human being. So that already helped me a lot. Then in 2021, I got my driver's license, which for which to get I had to travel with a train like for like 5-6 months pretty regularly. So that allowed me to again get accustomed to traveling on my own and like not being scared that I'm gonna get on the wrong train and all that jazz. And then once I got my driver's license and getting a car has opened up my world, honestly, in many ways, because it's allowed me to travel to places that I wouldn't be able to travel otherwise. Like if I didn't have my driver's license in my car, I wouldn't be able to travel to the town where the endocrinologist has his office, so I wouldn't be able to get HRT otherwise. It's kind of insane how neatly everything has kind of worked out. I guess that's kind of why I believe I have the motto that I have, which is a Japanese phrase called Nanto Kanaru, which means it's gonna work out somehow. It's a dumb way that I got it. I got it from like Yu-Gi-Oh! Sexo, from the main character of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sexo, but it's honestly kind of worked out for me as a general motto. As long as I've done my best and pushed forward, things have worked out for me kind of neatly. Because like again, if I didn't have my driver's license, I wouldn't have been able to get the HRT. It's kind of insane. But yeah, getting the driver's license allowed me to travel to places more, which kind of made me more confident to be on my own and like travel on my own and do all that stuff. Then having to buy a new car from a city halfway across the country and having to drive the car back also made me feel like more confident and all that stuff. Recently, even starting the job that I am working, which is being a milk delivery driver basically has also opened up my world even more, because it's given me the ability, or should I say also like the space to have some heavy responsibility thrown on me that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to, or interested, or liked to be thrown on me. So it's made me more confident and able to like do things and like take care of like things under a lot of pressure. So it's made me a better person. And like all these general life experiences has allowed me to be more confident and less shy, so I was able to make all of these appointments to the different doctors and psychiatrists that I've had to go to, and be able to travel to all these places as well. Like doing that on my own is kind of an insane thing to think about. Even like a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do. So in a way, I feel like genuinely there wasn't a way, there isn't a timeline in which I was able to get HRT sooner in my life than this. Because there was all these things that needed to happen in my life to be able to get to where I am. So I'm honestly not particularly bothered about being 23 and starting HRT at 23 instead of like sooner, but whatever. And also like watching other trans content creators like Finster's new girlfriend Iki, who also by the way inspired me for my new channel name, Paige. And her having started HRT at 23 and looking like a gorgeous woman, gorgeous cis woman even, she passes so well, makes me happy and makes me not worried about my chances of passing 3 years from now, you know? But yeah, despite how awful gender dysphoria is, it has pushed me, it has motivated me, and made me into a better person, so it's not all bad. So yeah, where I was. Oh yeah, I had to go to the fertility clinic and get my sperm frozen. I will tell you this, it's a little bit too personal, but I'm already sharing a lot of personal stuff, so might as well just lay it out all on the table. What I did not expect to be harder, this hard, was actually kind of keeping my hands off of my private parts for at least a week before giving the sample to the fertility clinic. That turned out to be a much bigger pain in my ass, or pain in my private parts, than I anticipated. Still worked out ultimately, but God, that was hell of a week or two, honestly. I'm glad that it's over though, and I finally managed to get the sample, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, that one is probably the most expensive thing that I've had to do during the summer in regards to my transition, which honestly, I wish I didn't have that stress and that pressure onto me, because I could have had the money and saved the money and used them for something else in regards to my transition, but we've done it. It's fine. Because like, as you might have seen in some of my videos, particularly my Ghost Whisperer reaction, I've talked about how I am not against having children, but I don't know if I'll ever really be truly ready to have children. And I'm definitely feeling a lot of pressure about having children, because almost all of my cousins have children. Like I have like 5 first cousins. 5 children who are my aunt's children. Because like my mom has 2 sisters, and one has 3 children, one has 2 children, and pretty much all of them except one already has children. Like I have like 6 nephews now. I believe it's like 3 boys and 3 girls if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's kind of insane. And it's like 5 of them were born this year. Like one of them was born, I believe, in like, was it 2018? I think it was. And then all of the other ones have been born in like the last 12 months, which is kind of insane. But it's like, with all of them having children, even one of the younger cousins, I'm definitely feeling the pressure there, but I don't know if I'm really ever gonna feel ready. I don't know if I'll really ever feel like I've set up my life enough to where I'm ready to have children. So yeah, plus I'm more interested in adopting than actually having biological children. I am not against the idea, but I don't know, there's just something about adopting that seems um more interesting to me, or like better to me than having your biological children, because I want to help a child that has been left and not cared by other people. I want to save that child and help it out instead of bring another child to this world that doesn't need to exist, you know? I think that's because I'm such a gatherer of abandoned cats, because I have so many cats, and pretty much throughout my life, throughout my childhood, every time I saw like an abandoned kitten or something, I've wanted to like pick it and get it home, but I couldn't. But now that I'm an adult, there's nobody to stop me from doing that. So I've been doing that pretty much every time I would see an abandoned kitty. And I guess that's kind of the same kind of sentiment when it comes to children. I would be much more interested to adopt than actually have children of my own. But yeah, there's that. I've saved the possibility to have children, so that is kind of settled. But that also, funnily enough, turned out to be a little bit cheaper than I anticipated, which I'm so glad, because I thought it was gonna cost me like $1,000 in my country's currency, which is about 500 euros, but I had anticipated that it was going to cost me $1,000, and then it turned out to only cost me like $800, which again, it's like 400 euros, which was far better. So some money were left for other things, thank God. But yeah, that has been settled. I'm probably gonna have to spend another like $500 on it next year to extend like the period in which they keep the sample. And there's a little bit of a worry that maybe something didn't work out properly and they're not keeping the samples right now, which I'm gonna fucking lose my mind if that's what happened, because I don't want to stop HRT just to get another sample out, so I might just call it quits and say fuck it. But hopefully they are keeping it, and I'm gonna be able to extend the period for which they have to keep the sample next year. But yeah, that was done. Around that period of time, I started to get into some of the other things that I needed to do, like going to the psychiatrist, because I needed to get diagnosed officially with gender dysphoria to be able to start HRT. Because otherwise you can't get HRT, you know? And I went to the guy. He was honestly pretty nice. I still don't like him as much as I like my psychologist. But he was still much nicer than the other therapist that I went to in the beginning of the year. So overall, I'm satisfied. And he was kind of the opposite of that guy a little bit, because the other guy was kind of like a right-wing kind of conspiracy nutso kind of person. You can watch my previous video for the details about this, while this guy was definitely like a more liberal-minded person and a progressive kind of person. So he was much nicer, and while I wouldn't say I necessarily enjoyed going to him and having that talk with him, for me it was ultimately just a formality. It was fine, you know? It was fine. And I was so happy to finally get that official recognition of my gender dysphoria. It made me feel so good, because I had like a tangible evidence that I knew what was wrong with me and how to rectify it. Now, I only needed to wait until the doctor or the endocrinologist was finally back at work and I could make an appointment with him, which took a while. So in the meantime, there was some other things that I also ended up doing, like going for laser hair removal, because I don't know if some of you can notice it because it's not that different necessarily. It's not different on the camera. It doesn't look different on the camera, but in practice, it's definitely very different. Yes, I have went for facial laser hair removal. I've done 2 sessions already, and I've already prepaid for 4. It costs me like $400, which is once again 200 euros, which is not a lot. And potentially I will pay, if I have to, for like 6 more sessions if I need to, because I don't really want to do electrolysis. I much prefer to just stick with the laser hair removal because that's already fucking painful. But I was honestly already really happy with the results of it, even after the first session, because it already feels silky smooth on most of my face. Like, I already mostly grew facial hair on my mustache and on my beard over here. I did have, in the last 2 or 3 years, I did start to grow more facial hair over here in these areas. But most of it was still here and here. And that's where it was the most painful for the laser to remove the hairs. Especially over here. I barely was able to like keep my composure while the technician was like doing these hairs over here. Here it was easier. A little bit easier, still pretty painful, but it was easier. But here, oh my god, it was so bad. And I can tell you, on the second session already, it was so much easier to get through. Like, the only parts which were just as painful was, once again, this part here was pretty painful, because I guess they didn't really remove too much hair on the first one. And I guess some of the parts that we hadn't touched on the first session, like my sideburns and some of my eyebrows, because I've done also a little bit of like an eyebrow thinning thing. So those parts also still hurt on the second session, but here I barely felt anything, you know, which shows that most of that hair is gone. I didn't have much facial hair there. And I can definitely tell you that that was the case because after like the initial week, after the laser hair removal session, because after that you have like a week during which the hairs that got burned are supposed to like fall out, and because the follicles get destroyed, after they fall out, they either grow slower or they don't grow back. And I can definitely tell you, even after that first session, like after a week, it was definitely affected. Like, it already affected it so much. Because typically, the way my shaving would go is, I would shave before I would record a video, and usually either by the time that I'm done recording, because I usually record for like 6 hours or even more sometimes, or by the next 12 hours, it would already have started to grow back. It would already be starting to be itchy and poking out of the skin. Even like those parts here where there isn't that much hair would already start to feel itchy when I touch them, you know? But after that first laser hair removal session, even after like 2 days of no shaving, it still felt smooth. Which is kind of insane, because the last time my face felt that smooth after shaving was back when I first started a YouTube channel, I feel like. Because back then, the only shaving that I needed to deal with was just like my mustache and my beard. I didn't really have much of a facial hair otherwise, but over the next 4 years, you know, I got more masculine and I grew up and all that stuff. And I started to have more facial hair. So I had to deal with it more and more and more. So basically, I've now reverted to like 2019, maybe even like at this point 2018, 2017 levels of facial hair, which, oh my god, has felt so relieving. It has definitely brought me back mentally to that period of time, because back then I didn't really shave that much. So I'm happy about that. And like I said, I have 4 more sessions to go. I've prepaid for that many, and I'm open to, if I need to go on more. I've thought about doing a full body laser hair removal, but I realize that it's going to be very fucking painful, especially in some specific parts of the body. So I don't know when and if I'm gonna do it, because not only is it pretty fucking expensive, all things considered, especially if I have to go on more than 6 sessions for each of the parts of the body. So if I have to go for multiple 6 sections, it's gonna cost me like 10 grand. But I've heard that the HRT is supposed to kind of affect your body hair at least a little bit. So as long as it kind of thins it out and maybe makes it a little bit slower in its when it comes to its growth, it's gonna be fine. Like, I don't mind shaving most of my body. There's some particular parts which I wish I didn't have to shave as much, like my back or my private parts. But I don't really mind shaving like my arms and legs that much, because that's something the cis women do as well. So it's not really a dysphoric experience. It's just more of a pain in my ass. That's why I'm saying that I wish I didn't have to shave my back in particular, because it's a pain in my ass. And I guess my ass too a little bit, but doing the laser hair removal would be incredibly painful on those specific private parts. And I've realized that I probably will never really be able to get reassignment surgery, because for reassignment surgery, you obviously need to remove all the hairs from your private parts, because you wouldn't like to have a vagina full with hair, right? So you have to go through laser hair removal, multiple sessions of that, and then to make sure that all the hairs from that location have been removed, you also have to go and do electrolysis, which is even more painful, because it's literally removing your hairs with electricity one by one. So it's not only incredibly tedious, it's incredibly painful, and it's incredibly expensive. So I don't know if I'll really be able to do that. I would love, honestly, I want reassignment surgery, but I don't think I'll really be able to do that, because it would be so hard for me to go through the experience of laser hair removal on those parts, because that alone is very painful, and then doing electrolysis, and then the surgery itself would be incredibly painful as well, and the recovery would be very hard as well. So I don't know if I'll really ever go and do that, but I definitely feel like I want to. Even after starting HRT and figuring stuff out, I still think that I ultimately would want that, But yeah. So now that we did all the side stuff, we finally were able to go and get the HRT. And to get the HRT prescribed, it was a little bit of a tumultuous journey, I gotta say. I definitely suggest you to go through my Patreon and Coffee account and watch the most recent vlog video. It's like a 1-hour video where you can see how frustrating the experience of getting to the place where I needed to go to get HRT was. Because, the guy, the endocrinologist who prescribes the HRT, doesn't even work in the capital, where it's relatively easy for me to travel to, No. Instead, he works in a private office kind of in the middle of fucking nowhere, all things considered. It's like in a small town in the capital region, but still something like 70 kilometers from the capital. And I had to travel there to his private office to get that HRT prescribed. I had no other option. Luckily, I didn't have to resort to traveling with trains, which would have been even more annoying and confusing and everything. I could drive myself with my car. And because I didn't want to drive to super major roads and go to the capital of my country to be able to go to the small town, because that's the fastest route according to Google Maps, Instead, I decided to kind of use some more country roads, basically, like some more rural roads. What I didn't anticipate, though, was that was not gonna be as easy as you would expect. Because, like, yeah, I expected that the roads were gonna be, like, in not that great of a condition, but that was gonna be fine. It's not like I'm not experienced in driving on bad roads, and it's not like, at least there was gonna be, like, less traffic, you know? So I was fine with those things. But there were some things that just I couldn't foresee, even though I should have. The main one being that is something that it doesn't even have anything to do with the journey itself. Because on the day that I had made my appointment, I had made the appointment for like a Monday. I literally had started going. I was literally on my way. I was like 15 to 20 minutes of the way there, which was like a 2-hour travel to the place. I was like 20 minutes of the way, so like, I don't know, 20 kilometers or so on the way there, when I got a call from that private cabinet where the woman on the registry, or like, I don't know what's the word for it, if the word for it is like registry. The woman, the secretary there, called me and told me that the doctor couldn't make the appointment, so she asked me if I could reschedule. So I was already on my way there, and that was already something that I had been thinking about and been stressing about and being eager to finally be done with. And then they call me while I'm on my way there to tell me that the appointment is basically cancelled. To say that I was pissed off is putting it mildly. Again, check out my vlog to see how mad I was about that. It genuinely felt like the universe was trying to prevent me from getting HRT, especially with the events of the following day, for which we changed the appointment to, because I couldn't really wait much longer than that. So yeah, I went back home. I basically slept until the next morning, basically did kind of a time skip, and on the next day, I went on my way there. On Google Maps, it has said that some of the road to that town that I needed to travel to, where his private cabinet is, was under construction or was a private road. I didn't know which one of those two things was the issue with traveling through those rural roads, so I assumed that Google Maps was wrong for some reason and it was going to be fine. I was going to be able to travel because it looks fine on the map and everything. So I went on my way there. And about halfway of the way there, right as I was getting to like one small village, right at the end of it, I was met with a construction crew, which had pretty much closed off the road. Well, not really closed off, but there was like a truck. There was like a hole dug out in the road. There was a truck right beside it and another digging machine that was filling up the truck with stuff. So there was no way for me to go on forward. And I got scared. I didn't think that I could cross there. So I tried to use some back roads in the small village, like some dirt roads to kind of go around them. But it turns out that no, there was no way to go through those dirt roads. So I went back. I got out of my car. I went and asked, can I pass here? And they said, yes, you can pass. So they let me through. And for about like 5, 6, 7, 8 times maybe, I don't even know how many times, I kept being met with truck after truck, digging machine after digging machine, like excavator after excavator, and had to stop so many times. It's kind of insane because I couldn't pass because they would be either cleaning up the road or digging out the road or like laying down rocks and stuff. And even as soon as I got to the goddamn town, the town itself, they were also fucking doing stuff there. I had to go through like some back roads there. On the way there, There was also one small village which was very stuck, like there was no way to pass. I didn't even bother getting out of my car to ask, hey, can you move so I can pass? So I went on another dirt road, and this time at least I was able to get through that dirt road and avoid that particular excavator. And the annoying part is, by the time that I went out on the road past that excavator, the excavator was gone, so that was kind of pointless and annoying, but at least I managed to get to the town finally. But even getting to the building of the endocrinologist itself was kind of frustrating, because the building of his private cabinet is a building that has been recently renovated. And half of the building is still fucking run down. It's like a pretty big building, so half of it is like still completely decrepit and everything, and the other half has been like renovated and new and all that stuff. So when I arrived there, I didn't clearly see which road I was supposed to take and where I was supposed to go. So I felt like I didn't understand something about the directions that I had been given about where I needed to go and everything. So I was starting to get frustrated and scared, but luckily I found a place. I went there. The women at the secretaries were very nice, and everything. I went to this doctor. I actually thought that during this appointment he would probably ask me a couple of questions. I kind of expected that he was probably going to take a look at my body, so to speak, but I didn't expect that he was gonna actually like prescribe me HRT, because the person at the LGBTQ charity had told me that I needed to do some blood tests before starting HRT, so I assumed that similarly to what happened when I was freezing my sperm, I would be given a note with the things that I needed to do blood tests for, and I would need to go do blood tests and come back for a second appointment. But no, that's not what I needed to do. Instead, the guy did ask me a couple of questions, did look at my body, and just gave me a prescription for HRT, and basically told me that I should use it to get HRT for as much as he needed, and if and when no pharmacy is willing to take my prescription, I should go for another one, which most likely means that in like 3 or 4 months I'm gonna have to go again and get a new prescription, but we'll see about that exactly. So yeah, I was really shocked and happy that I finally got the HRT. I honestly kind of couldn't believe it, because I was not expecting that I was gonna get HRT that day. I thought it was gonna be like a week or two until I did that. But no, he prescribed me HRT. So once that kind of settled in my head, I was really, really eager to go to a pharmacy and buy the prescriptions, which is like an anti-androgen and the estrogen pill, you know? It's in pill form. And that turned out to be another goddamn pain in my ass. Which, by the way, on my way back home, I decided not to use those rural roads and instead just go through the capital. Plus, I also needed to go through a bunch of pharmacies to be able to get the HRT, because I didn't want to go to like some of the more local ones in like some of the smaller, closer towns to where I live, where I'm a more frequent visitor. Because this is something that, I mean, I'm still ashamed of people finding out about, you know? At least a little bit. So I prefer to go to to pharmacies in the capital to be able to get those prescriptions, but that turned out to be such a pain in the fucking ass, because I had to go to so many fucking pharmacies, and I still wasn't really able to find all the things that I needed. Because, like, I'm pretty sure in every single one of the pharmacies, I was able to get, like, the estrogen pill. But the anti-androgen was such a pain in my ass to get. Like, I went to, like, definitely half a dozen pharmacies, most likely closer to a full dozen of pharmacies. And I couldn't get it. Like I got only like at least one box of it, so I was able to start HRT on that day ultimately, but I still had to go to a pharmacy in like one of the towns closer to where I live and order it for pickup in like a couple of days. So we did get HRT though, but then it turned out that I did need to do some blood work at the end there. So I had to still, I ended up doing HRT for like 2 days. Then I had to stop for a week, do a blood test to make sure everything's okay and to see what the base levels of all the stuff is for me, so we can actually make a comparison for like 3 months from now when we will have to do another blood test to see how the HRT has affected me, whether we need to increase some stuff or anything. So I did those blood tests. It turned out to not be enough of a wait. Like that 1 week wasn't enough for the effects to wear off. So luckily, the blood test that I did for the sperm freezing was also good enough for the guy at the LGBTQ charity to be able to track where my levels were before. So it's all fine. But yeah, pretty much, I think since 26th or 25th or 26th of October, I've been on HRT, which is about 2 or 3 weeks at this point. So I'm happy, and you are pretty much caught up with me in this story. The only weird thing when it comes to my blood test, though, is that I kind of forgot to mention it, and it's not really that relevant, but during my blood test for the sperm freezing, it turned out that my prolactin or prolactine, or however you're supposed to pronounce that, levels were elevated, and it's not supposed to be elevated for males of my age. Like 23-year-old males are not supposed to have this level of prolactin, which from what I read online, if it's that elevated, it might have to do something with like osteoporosis or something along those lines. I saw that it could ultimately like lead to or whatever. It had some connection there, and I thought that might explain why I have so much bone pain in like the last year or so. I've been having a lot of bone pain, like whenever I pick some really heavy stuff, whenever I would let go of it, like if I'm carrying like wood to put in like the in the furnace, you know, when I drop the wood, it's like my hand would hurt because you know how like a spring, like if you hold it back and it flips back, it kind of feels like because of how heavy the wood was, the bones would kind of like move back, and that's why they would hurt. I don't know. The point is, when I carried heavy stuff and held heavy stuff, when I would let go, it would hurt, and it still hurts, and I still even get like occasional random pains in my bones, like when I'm like holding myself in like a weird way, like when I'm sitting on the ground, or like I'm on my knees and looking for something on the ground. If I just support myself in a little bit of a weird way on my arm, it would kind of hurt in my bones. I don't know if it's connected to that necessarily. One of the doctors told me that if those levels were not normal in like a month or two, I should contact an endocrinologist. But interestingly enough, on the more recent blood test, which I did after being on HRT for like 2 days and then stopping it for like a week, the prolactin levels were fine. So I don't think that's necessarily something I need to worry about, but still. So yeah, ultimately you are at the point where I am. I'm on HRT. I have figured out things about my identity. I figured out exactly who, or at least I know pretty well the kind of girl that I am, the kind of style that I have, the kind of identity that I want to have. Socially, I don't necessarily plan on coming out too much still. the point at which I'm gonna be coming out socially as a girl is going to be whenever I move out, which hopefully will be next year if I manage to earn enough money from my job or from YouTube. Hopefully I'll manage to move out next year, but I'm definitely like continuing with the medical stuff no matter what. I mean, I've started it at this point, so the clock is ticking for me to move out before the changes become too obvious, because I feel like already I can see changes in my face. I don't know if it's just psychological stuff, but I definitely feel like at least like I don't hate my face. Because like before, whenever I would look at my face, I would feel like it's wrong. I would feel disgusted by my face. I would feel like I just want to peel it off. You know, it felt like something was wrong with my face. But now when I look at myself in the mirror, I'm more comfortable with it already. And again, I don't know if it's just mental stuff that is causing me to feel like that, or whether it's actually my face looking slightly different and my brain seeing that, but I am happy, man. I am so happy to finally be in HRT. It has felt so immensely relieving of my mental health, because for the longest time I've just always had this thing on my head where no matter what I would be doing, it would feel like something is bothering me constantly. It's kind of felt like I've always had this program running in the background, clogging up CPU resources, to use like a PC analogy. You know how sometimes you might have some software that is clogging up your CPU or GPU or memory, and it's gonna slow down your computer. It's kind of how I felt. Like I've always felt like my brain has been having this process working in the background that has been clogging up most of the CPU power that it has. So no matter what I was doing, it wasn't working to its fullest capacity. And I've also watched a certain YouTube video from like a certain creator that talks a lot about trans people, like some kind of like psychologist lady, which talks about that experience. And I don't really delve into it too much because it's a very detailed thing that I cannot really do justice of. But the point is that that is not something that I'm imagining. That is something that trans people do have to deal with. That's the dysphoria in the back of your head, which constantly is basically telling you something is wrong, something is wrong, something is wrong, but it's not really specifying what is wrong. And that process is constantly running in the background, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, no matter at what point in your life you are. That is just running in the background constantly, and just forcing your brain to kind of work with far more limited resources. But now that feels like it's gone. It feels like I've used like a cleanup program to kind of clean up some of the temporary junk files in my brain, you know? Yeah, like many other trans people have said, to me HRT is like antidepressants. So yeah, HRT is my antidepressants, honestly. That is not to say that I haven't been depressed since I did start HRT. There have been some things that have been bothering me, but it's not really something that I can get into here, and I feel like the video is already too long, so yeah. It's mainly been the fact that for the longest time, HRT has been my goal, and the thing that I used to define my transness by, you know? It's like, it was my goal for so long that now that I have achieved it, I don't know where to go next. And for the longest time, I've used the fact that once I get HRT, I would be factually defined as a girl, because before that it was just kind of like something that I called myself, like I identified as, but I didn't have any tangible evidence that I was that thing, that I was a girl. And I thought that starting HRT was gonna make me feel like I am a girl, like I can define myself as a girl. But starting HRT actually didn't define me as much of as a girl as much as I thought it was going to. You know? So I've had to kind of figure out the fact that it doesn't matter whether other people will refer to you as a girl or not. The point is that you are, whether you pass or not. The only thing that matters is that what you think, and I guess as long as you are on HRT, you know, because for me, the fact that I'm on HRT is kind of allowing me now to define myself and like tangibly feel like I am a girl, because that was a thing that was depressing me, because I thought that once I started HRT, I would feel like a girl and everything would be fine. But I didn't feel like a girl. I felt a little bit different for a couple of days, and then it kind of started to feel like, oh, okay, I kind of don't feel different. I don't feel like this really changed my life and actually turned me into a girl, you know? And defined me as a girl to the rest of society. What's up with that? But I figured it out now. I feel better about it. And probably there's going to be some other issues that are going to jump out and I'm going to have to deal with. But that's why I'm going to be still going to the psychologist multiple times going forward. Especially because there's also going to be some changes, both physical and mental ones, that I will want to talk about with somebody. And I definitely already am feeling some of the mental changes, mainly the emotional one, because boy, have I really become a passive-aggressive bitch since starting HRT. And I definitely wasn't like that before. I was definitely angry, but I wasn't this kind of like passive-aggressive bitch. That's the best way I can describe it. Like, I wasn't so pissy about things. Like, I would get angry and frustrated and I would scream and I would punch, but now I'm so like whiny about this. And I'm sorry if that kind of comes off sexist, but that's genuinely how I've been behaving. And there's also the sadness that I've been feeling that has felt so much more painful than before. Like before, whenever I would feel sad or like, I mean, I don't even know what to call this emotion now, because to me before, feeling sad felt like wanting to cry. But now, feeling sad feels like I have a fucking deep-ass hole in my chest. You know? Like, this kind of, like, sadness I haven't felt, at least since I was a child. Like, that's kind of how deep sadness used to feel when I was young, but I haven't felt it since then, so yeah, that's definitely something that I've already been affected by. And I'm really, really excited to, like, get into some shows that make me cry a lot, like Ghost Whisperer, to see how much more emotional I will be once I react to that, because I've already been pretty emotional in the emotional episodes, in some of the emotional episodes of that show, so how much more of a crier has the HRT made me? I'm really excited to find that out, because it's one of the more exciting aspects of HRT for me, other than boobs, I guess. But yeah, I think that's all I've had to share with you guys. That's where my journey has taken me, and I'm gonna try to honestly do updates more going forward, because like I said, I don't care anymore whether my cousin or my family finds out about this anymore. I just don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm on my way there, and I'm not gonna give up or stop or let anybody get in my way. But still, I'm gonna probably at least take a little bit more time before doing like the update on YouTube. You're still gonna get a quicker transition update on Patreon and Coffee. You know, you're gonna get a quicker vlog there, whereas you're just gonna get a recap on YouTube, like this video, you know? But yeah, I'm still glad you guys sat here and heard my story out, my experience, my journey this year. I'm finally at the at least first step. I've made the single biggest step in my transition that is hopefully gonna continue for a long time, and I'm gonna still make more and more steps, and I'll end up making all the steps that I want. Because ultimately, if I do have the means, I will like to have genital reassignment surgery. I definitely would love to have that. However painful it may be, if I have the means to do it, it would be hard to convince myself not to. because I know it will be painful, but it will be kind of worth it. Because that's kind of like what dysphoria makes me do, man. It's like it pushes me to do things that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise, because I'm such a scaredy cat. I hate pain so much. Like, I wouldn't do that to fix my fucking teeth. I hated going to the dentist. And even to this day, I feel like for tooth pain, I wouldn't be going to such extreme lengths to fix the issue that is causing me tooth pain. But because of gender dysphoria, I would be willing to do laser hair removal, electrolysis, and then go through the surgery, because that's how much I want that. So if you guys could help me get there, I would greatly appreciate it. I really mean it. I would really greatly appreciate it. But yeah, any amount that you guys can help me out with would be amazing. Anyway, though, I think that's all I have to say. So, what did you guys think about my experience? Comment us down below. Let's have a talk about this. And also, before we end this video, I just want to give a huge shout out to my currently 2 patrons on Patreon, Deadpool and Corvidead. Thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me. If you have decided to support me, if you have continued to support me such a long time, hope you continue to enjoy my content and continue to support me going forward. Thank you very much. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, check out the description to my Wattpad, where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you don't enjoy my stories or simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to my Patreon, my Ko-fi account, or my PayPal, where you can pledge your support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do any of that, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!